Hi, welcome back to my little oral history of working with the Beatles. And I believe I left off last time, or I mentioned before, that I had gone, I think I had a job, but before I had the job, I had asked Paul if I could come to one of the sessions for the White Album at Abbey Road. And I was told very clearly by the other ladies who work there that, we don't do that. That's not what we do. And I thought, that is weird. Why wouldn't you want to go to a Beatles session? I mean, here they are, ask them. That was perhaps my American way of dealing with things at that time. And I was totally not indoctrinated to the Beatle ways at that point. So I did ask Mal, and Mal said, now they had just started recording the White Album around this period of time. So they were just really starting to get into the sessions. And I asked Mal if I could come, and he said, yeah, sure. Why don't you go with me? And I've got to go pick up some instruments and some stuff for the session tonight, and you can come along with me. And I thought, oh, okay. So he and I got in a taxi and rode around for, I don't know, lots of time that afternoon, picking up stuff that he needed for the session. And he was just such a nice guy. He was really good. I also realized, though, that, Mal liked girls. And so, I was aware that maybe he was hitting on me, but I wasn't exactly going to go into that particular area. So we ended up back at Apple, and I did whatever I was going to do for the next couple hours until I decided, yeah, I think it's time. I'm going to go over to EMI. So I got a taxi to EMI, and I showed up this building. I thought, God, this is the historic place where the Beatles record, It was not a lot. It really wasn't a lot to look at that point. But anyway, I went in, and down this long hallway, or the memory is that it was a long hallway. I think there were a couple studios off to the side, but there was a security guard. So I went up to the security guard and I said, hi, I'm supposed to meet Mal Evans here. And he said, okay, why don't you have a seat over in reception, and I'll get a hold of Mal. So I said, okay. And I went and I sat down, and I waited and I waited and I kept waiting. And I thought, well, this is interesting. There was nobody really walking around or doing anything. I didn't see any activity, just sitting in this little reception area. Finally, Mal showed up and gave me a big hug, and he sat down across from me, and we just started talking. Just kind of carrying on the conversation that we'd had before about where I was from, what was Tucson, Arizona like, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Why'd I come to London? The regular chit chat. And I thought, whoops, doesn't look like I'm gonna get in this recording session. And this kind of went on for a long time until I realized, what? He's being so diplomatic, and he's not really going to let me in with the Beatles to listen to them record. He is going to sit here and talk to me. And at some point, this other guy came in, and they said hi, and he introduced himself as Peter Shotton, who I learned fairly quickly, because he sat down and started talking to me, that he was a childhood friend of John's, that he'd been in the Quarrymen, his first John's band. He played washboards. He also told me that John hit him over the head with the washboard when he got mad at him once, and he quit. Anyway, he was a very sweet guy from Liverpool, and by this time I'm starting to begin to understand the Liverpool accent. Not 100%, but starting to. And anyway, he was just really nice, and Mal got up. He had to go back into the studio to get things for the band, And so Pete and I just kept talking, and we did the obvious conversation. Why are you here? What brought you here? All of that. He told me about, being in the Quarrymen and coming from Liverpool. And he was just so nice. And at some point he said, do you want to go in the studio? And I went, yeah. And he said, well, come on, I'll take you in. And I'm like, whoa, I'm going past the Mal, the guard. I'm going past Mal, who only allows certain people in. I thought, okay, well, I am not saying no to this. So we went downstairs and entered Abbey Road Studio 2 was a really big studio. And the control room, the control room was high, and you had to go down quite a lot of steps to get down into the studio. So George Martin and everybody were sitting, and the other Beatles were all inside the control room, and Pete and I came through a door downstairs directly into the studio, and we just kind of went and sat at the piano and talked because they weren't recording us. And just sat around, and I went, oh man, they're up there. The Fab Four are right up there, and I am right down here. But at this time I was kind of in a state of, I don't know what you call it. I can't say shock. I think it's when you find yourself in situations in which you could never have dreamed you would find yourself. Let's put it that way. If someone had said to me, May 31st of 1968, around May 31st, you're going to be at a Beatles session, sitting in the studio while they're upstairs. And I thought, nah, I would never have believed that. Never. Anyway, a little while later, John and Yoko come down the stairs because now he's with Yoko. And they say hi to Pete, and Pete introduces me to them. And they said, well, we're just going to put some sound on this track. The way I've been able to research this, my memory certainly doesn't tell me this. It was Revolution. And we were doing hand claps. That was the idea, is they were coming down to put hand claps. So I'm sitting there, and John and Yoko are there, and there's a microphone. They set up the mic and everything. And John says, come on, Pete, come on over and join us. We're going to just put some hand clapping on this track. And I got nervous. I thought they were going to ask me to sing. I don't know why I was so nervous about singing. I just never saw myself as a singer, darn. But when I come back, I really want to come back as a singer. That was not that was the first time, but not the last time that I went, but I don't sing. I don't want to do this. And I shied away from it. And Pete said, no, it's cool. And then down the stairs come Paul, George, and Ringo. And we all are standing there around this microphone. And they showed us what we had to do, the claps we had to do. And, I don't know there are no words to express how I felt. Honestly, there aren't, because it was all happening. So there was no time to really put any subtitles around it. It was just, oh my God, I'm in the... Oh, that's my dog, who loves to have something to say around this time. I thought, oh my God, I'm in the studio with the Beatles. And we're recording. I wish my dog knew that. Anyway, Max, come here. Come be on the tape. Anyway, so yeah, come on. So there I am, and I'm sitting there, and I'm with the Beatles clapping on one of their tracks. It was unbelievable. And anyway, so needless to say, pretty awe-inspiring that night. And I mean, I can't even give you any little intricacies because I don't think there were any. It was just the idea of here we are in the studio putting hand claps on a Beatles song. And bless Pete Shotton for that. He and I became good friends, and we saw each other quite a lot during that period of time. He and I one time went out to or went to the studio, and I don't think it was that night. That would have been really too soon. We went to the studio, and afterwards we ended up going back to Paul McCartney's house, and who at that time I don't know if he was with Francie Schwartz. He wasn't with Linda yet. I think he was with Francie Schwartz, and we went back. John said to Pete, come on, we're going to go back and spend the night at Paul's house. So we all went back and spent the night at Paul's house. And the next morning when I got up, I had to go to Apple. I had to go to work. But, I didn't have a job yet, but I still had to go to work. So I got up, and Paul was up. And so he said, are you going to Apple? And I said, yes. So he said, well, come on, we'll go. And we jumped on the bus. And we rode on the bus to Wigmore Street because we were still on Wigmore Street at that point. And yeah, there I am. Nobody said anything or seemed to notice him. And he just seemed so comfortable. And that's the way he was. It was just no big deal, that he was kind of like just your everyday guy. I was, in the meantime, I think I was riding around in shock during a lot of that period. However, it was a time when I did see them every day, at least Paul every day, occasionally John. And so it wasn't like I was getting more used to the idea of seeing them. Let's put it that way. I was getting more kind of adept at not freaking out. Let's say that for sure. Anyway, that was my first time in the studio. It was also, I guess, the first time I ever spent at Paul McCartney's house, but I can't say I ever spent another night there. However, I did go there again because there was a period of time when I just would go to EMI. I don't know, or Trident. I was booking Trident at that point, and I think they just got so used to seeing me that nobody ever said anything. And I went over one night, and Paul had gone over to another studio and was playing on the piano, and I kind of wandered into there. And he said, Linda called, because by then Linda McCartney had appeared. Linda called and wanted to know if you wanted to come for dinner. It was Thanksgiving, by the way, in England. And so Linda was fixing this big Thanksgiving dinner, and I said, sure, great. So I rode with him back to his house on Cavendish Avenue after the session, once they were finished, and it was early because we were having dinner. And we got to Paul's house. I had been there before, obviously. I'd been there more than a couple times. And Linda had made this beautiful Thanksgiving dinner, and Donovan was there, who I hadn't met before. And the four of us sat down and had Thanksgiving dinner. So 2 Americans and 2 Brits. And it was so casual and so easy. And by this time, I had become friends with Linda, more or less. I mean, I still wanted Paul, but she beat me out on that one. So I decided to just put that desire away. And she and I connected the first night that she came in, right when she arrived in London. Paul brought her to a James Taylor session at Trident, and I was there, and we were across the street having Chinese food, Peter Asher and James and the musicians, and in walks Paul to the restaurant with this girl who's wearing this long trench coat and just looks like, I thought, what? Honest to God, I'll be honest, she looked like a bag lady. That's the truth. I just was like, okay, no challenge here, Chris, keep going for it. And they came in and sat down and ate with us. And then afterwards, we went back to the studio. And Linda and I went upstairs to the snack room and we started talking and discovered she found out I was from Tucson. I found out she'd gone to the University of Arizona and loved Tucson. For her, her photography career started there because, I mean, it is pretty beautiful with the mountains and the light. The lighting here is amazing. So she and I connected on that level that we were both from Tucson. And we had really actually good time. She wanted, I would go and see her. I'd meet up with her for lunch, or we went to Harrods one day and went shopping together. And she didn't know anybody, so I guess it was nice to have a female that she could interact with. During that time, you know, she was in touch with me a lot. I have some postcards she sent me from Ireland when they went to Ireland, and you know, it was an interesting friendship at that period of time. I really liked her. She was different, very American, very sort of in your face. And she took Paul. That's just the reality. She took Paul. So, dash that dream. Anyway, that was a little bit of what it was like in that period of time when I went to the studios, and I went a lot more times than that, meeting Linda, the different situations that happened. Anyway, thanks very much for listening. I will be back next week with another episode. Not sure what it's going to be yet. Thank you, and I hope my dog Max doesn't come with me. Thanks very much. Ta-ta. Cheerio.